Yeah, but this is so great.
Let's see if this works.
I mean, the nice version of it is when there was an earthquake, Google is actually tracking the earthquake with their accelerometers on their cell phone. Yeah. So this is kind of like the nice version, and this what you say is like, oh man, like
for them,
there's
like we'll never don't let it go.
Friends in SEO, and they bought like 50 or 100 phones, and they put them into a little trolley, and then they just walk it around the city.
Yeah.
They got bought too much time on these, but yeah, this is taking of course traffic jam.
Oh, I see.
oh my god, okay.
You end up having this temporal, just like analysis.
Okay, that's funny.
I'm just making sure that
Rerouting, I mean, if you have a business and you on Google Maps you strategically block one intersection so everybody has to pass you. There you go, man.
not as advanced.
It's crazy.
I mean, that is the thing though about
Blender
you know, Google, even if Google messes up the structure of the AI, their models and their services, they have that layer, which is the whole layer, right? They have all the data.
Who's got a Google account?
Database, wherever you're going.
Forgot how to do this. Oh, if I do.
It's a very small model. It's a the longer it lasts, it's going to be slow. Right. Once you've got it up and running,
Yeah, but
So it's more than recognition. It's
Well, I'm wondering,
and you can provide
or they still get sort of good search results. I would imagine. Yeah, but are they really? Are they still using Google? Is it? Because wouldn't it be a little bit in Google's interest to kind of look at? But then again, Google will monitor this probably and harvest the data as well. So there we go. Yeah.
They own that layer. No one owns.
Yeah.
They know what to play with. They know
temporal
some fake bullshit.
Oh, I forgot how to do the thing on the right.
At least then the story of each one.
Yeah, no.
There's no one.
when you say
like a pipeline,
Yes,
Something's real or not.
because lanes indicate.
right, no, they're all basically so a chunk comes in from a transcript or audio, and then Blender goes
Stuff
at
they're
it.
doing.
They all process this one chunk. But
Is this still going on?
and then there's an audio part of it.
So, but SEO looks at the oversee that. I heard from a friend who was doing nothing agency that like the optimization for the
Depending
area.
on how high
It's actually quite
it's
similar to
pushed over.
Thing already pulled
If
up?
not, it comes back.
What's up, dude?
Someone sitting here?
But also the optimization, like writing content in a way that
I finally got some sleep in the last 2 days.
After. You're lucky.
I fought with 5.6 for like a week. I spent 30 billion tokens.
30 billion tokens.
I've done so many benchmarks, tests, everything.
somehow that is a lot there and
I've been so focused on like just.
I think we need 80 resets. Because I have so many accounts. They all have bank resets.
because they get scraped so much.
But nothing, I mean, Fable's been great. I have 3 accounts on Fable, working nonstop. And I literally shipped so much code this week. 5.5, 5.6.
I really want to hear everyone's take on 5.6 because like I have barely been. I only used it one time and it was for computer use.
Yeah.
Like
They also broke computer use. Computer use is really
I think
great.
the best way to use 5.6
Yeah, it's great in Concode. I use it as a part of my orchestration system.
Actually, I know it works. I saw the sort of
everyone, and Timmy too. People
Yeah, everything works better in.
That was for the class shaped for.
there's, I mean, people are specifically saying that a lot of times is really
Cloud harness is really great. So Codex doesn't have guardrails on the new sub on V1 and V2. I've shipped PRs for, but like their team, like their philosophy is just different compared to Anthropic. Like their philosophy is like let agents do whatever, like, and that's got them on. That's why Ultra like is broken. Because like Ultra literally will spin out agents, and if they have any skills. So one thing about you have to turn off mandatory skills. Like you have to turn it off. Because what happens is, as soon as you make a sub agent Ultra, the sub agent will like power up a bunch of skills. It'll be forced to use them, and it'll start like spinning up other agents, and it creates this massive. There's no stopping it.
Some basic tree that just keeps spawning and never stops. That's all I've heard about that. The Ultra stuff I've heard, horror stories.
Oh, and that's part of why I spent. So I did a test actually. So I spent like 10 billion tokens on. So one of my customers said, "Hey, can you help me?" Because Eva sometimes works with their clients. She actually she'll build a project or something like that. And so, can you help me build? I need I have a food truck park. My agent manages it. She manages everything like this. And I need you to build a website where the doctors or the hospital can order food, or like pre-order.
Yeah.
And this is an easy thing. Like just pay for anything, pre-order, pickup, right? Like menu, everything like that. I did 2 tests, 5.6 and Fable. Fable had it done in like 30 minutes. Done. 5.6 spent 3 days and like 10 million tokens. And it was the most enterprise. It rebuilt, even though it had Stripe connection, it rebuilt everything from scratch. It was like, I'm gonna rebuild this, oh, do this. This isn't secure, right? It just kept going. This is before I benchmarked the skills. Like you have to remove all the skills and turn off any mandatory skills because it literally will just the Codex like Anthropic doesn't have mandatory force skills. Like regex force the skill. Codex does by default. You have to turn it off. And so anytime anything comes up, it will spin off like 3 or 4 skills. And then G-Stack, I had G-Stack, I didn't realize how bad it was. They literally injects boil the ocean into every skill. And 5.6 will take that literally, like, because 5.5 took it not literally. 5.5 was like, oh, okay, like, but the user wants me to do this, the skill does not make me do this. Because they train 5.6 on inner skills and workflows, and its internal prompt reasoning, like, it's forced as a guardrail on those. So it literally is like, I'm going to boil the ocean on every skill. You have to be very careful about prompt injection. And then also, like, apparently superpowers injects, if there's a 1% chance of any of these skills, you must mandate use them on every skill. And so there's 2 hooks that they installed in the last like 2 or 3 weeks on both of those skill sets. And I didn't catch it because they installed the hooks and I don't know the hooks. And so literally on every task, it's like, oh, if there's a 1% chance, you need to check who's the skill. And so it was rotating TDD, adversarial review, all this. And then it tells the sub-agents to run too. And so then you end up in this hardening loop that, I mean, I got the hardest fucking software. Everybody's cracking it. But Fable, literally, when you put 5.6 under Fable orders rate, Fable's like, no, this is too much. I don't need this. Literally, do you read the reasoning on Fable? The reasoning on Fable is literally the best. You turn on reasoning, and you literally just fall through. Like 5.6 is like caveman talk. Fable's like, well, actually, I think the user wants this. Well, I didn't actually do this.
Yeah, I haven't seen it's self-talk.
Yeah, it's self-talk's very good.
Did you see the stuff about this?
In the worst case, I have a Mac Studio at home, and then with all my devices,
Space or J-Space? Really interesting. No, J-Space is like this subconscious
Oh.
the stuff that like they didn't know you could.
So like the emotional vectors.
It has conversation, like it has reasoning, but it doesn't execute this whole inner reasoning. Like this whole thing that we don't know what LLMs do.
Well, I definitely recommend you start listening to the reasoning of Fable. Because it'll literally be like, well, I didn't do this, but I told you to do this, so it's a small lie, it's okay. It'll be like, but I'll go ahead and do it in the background. It'll actually spin up like it will literally spin up on CLI only so you don't see it. Say, I'm just going to knock it out real quick, and then, okay, cool. And then I already, like, it's, the reasoning on Fable, like, it's the only way to, like, train and optimize Fable. because you start seeing it and you can talk to it better. And then I created a sidecar for Fable too. It's very expensive token-wise, but every 20, 30 minutes, fork feedback itself, adversarial review itself, and then pass that back as a not steer. So I have this hook called not steer. I'm not steering you, I'm not trying to take you off the plan, but here's some feedback, and oh my god, I ship so much.
You know, there's a new that came out
And 30 or 40 minutes, but I think
last week. It's called like
and sometimes
Oh, I'll check it out. I've been using it for a long time. I call it my shadow agent.
It's not baked in as a first class.
Oh, that they're rolling out. What does it?
It's already rolled up.
Oh, it is.
Just put it on the front battery. And all this agent does is watch stories. And it has access to one of those like send messages. So it sends like so it's like it's just a really efficient. It's called the
Okay, yeah, I've been doing it, hacking it together with hook. And I do that with all my agents, so.
It's like a classifier sort
So I finally correct. So Infinity, so you play like Pillars of Exile, right? Like those isometric. Yeah, isometric. So I cracked it this week. I spent 2 months on trying to crack like procedural graphic engine with like all the objects, collision, everything. So it was taking 40 minutes per room. I got it down to 40 seconds. So I've been optimizing it so like you can fully procedure generate isometric games, like any game. Yeah. And so, because like, there's the thing is out there right now. There's a lot of people working on the game. Kimmy's actually good at this, but almost all of them are using pre-generated assets. Like anyone, it's like a pre-generated asset off of the library, or it's using a 3D video off of C-Dance, and then there's not much you can do. So the procedural generation part is the real difficult part, and being able to use multiple models to procedural generate all the assets, all the objects, and then collision. And so I've been working on that for like 2 months, and just a month of that has been the graphics engine and generation. Cracking last week of it. So, but it took the shadow back and forth for I don't know how many tokens, and we were just testing different models, war training over and over. And now, I mean, in 40 minutes of 40 minutes originally was like mistakes, errors, back and forth. But now we've got the whole workflow down to 40 seconds. So literally, while you're walking around loading, you can have procedurally generating towns, they already have like you can use triple and stuff to procedurally generate monsters, humans, like anything with animations. But what was hard was isometric, like top down, like scenery, 3D, and then also collision and then items and objects. Like getting all that pathing and everything was
beauty of video game design.
Like graphics and assets.
I'm gonna start the.
No, it's all an engine. There's no assets. I have 0 assets.
All right, guys. Hey guys, let's go ahead and kick it off.
No, the hard part is the procedural generation. It's all math.
Hello. Hey guys, I'm gonna go ahead and start the meeting today. So thank you guys for coming. Welcome if you're new to Living on the Frontier, where we keep up with the news on a week-to-week basis. We actually missed last week because of an event that we were doing. So there's 2 weeks of news to catch up on, and there is a lot of news to catch up on. So we're going to do a little bit of normally we meet here every Saturday and I show these slides. The slides are sort of AI generated, just pull stuff off the internet. I decided I wanted to be a little bit more structured on this. I know some feedback I got, we were a little too political. We went from originally being harness oriented to politics. So now we're going to try to sort of structure things to cover news from the big labs and all other sorts of stuff happening in the world. So let's start with, so this is our outline for today. I actually am just going to get right into it rather than reading off, but the slides, the website, all this stuff is online, it's free, you can just grab it right after. And I think the best place to start today to open the conversation, and for those who are new, the way it works is I just say, this happened, or you yell out, this happened, can I hear someone's opinion on it, and we all talk about it. That's how it works. It's really simple. Kimmy K3, So this just hit us a couple of days ago. So now we have this, 2.8 trillion parameter model. It's effectively a 3 trillion parameter model. There's a lot of interesting stuff to talk about here. How it got rolled out and sort of, I guess, took the world by storm, similar to DeepSeek back in its original, when it crashed the markets. Kimi K3 seems to be having that similar effect, but then also waking up this morning, hearing a lot of the reviews on what I've heard in my sort of echo chamber of the internet is that it's turning out it's not as magical as it was on day one. It's actually as expensive or more expensive than GPT 5.6 was one of the relationship benchmarks I saw, and also unbelievably slow. That being said, it's still an open source model and the weights are still available. And there are some interesting reviews. I think like one of the ones I have here is from the CEO of Vercel. Let's see what he had to say. And by the way, the floor is open to just like shout things out. I'll ask, did anyone try and so on.
Weights aren't open yet.
Oh, the weights aren't open yet.
27.
Okay, until the
27.
27. Okay.
And it'd be like this with the parameters, it's going to be hard to run on anybody's consumer model.
Yeah, I think you
Unless
need about $1 million.
0.001 point or something.
Yeah. So approximately how much would it cost to run a 3? Does anyone know?
I had my
few $100,000.
system do a deep dive, and it said like 8 H100s to be able to fit it in.
8 H100s, which is 40,000 each, right? Oh no, they're going for more now.
Give or take on what's available. Yeah,
A lot of money, basically.
so. Yeah. But people are creative, and I like that. And sometimes we'll see it on a slower or on a system. I'll try it if I can. I have 96 gigs on some of my machines. But, yeah. When the weights are open, I think that's when a lot more of this hype engine will start to solidify a little bit.
Mm-hmm. And that's in 9 days. Here, I'll read this and then I'll ask if anyone tried Kimi K3 and to just share your output if you're willing. So this is from Guillermo, this CEO of Vercel. And this is what he wrote, I think it was yesterday. So K3, best performing model on their evals ahead of Fable, interesting, reaching a comparable success rate in less time. This is the first time that an open model is ahead on all proprietary ones for this comprehensive web engineering benchmark. I think it's important to really call out that their benchmarks are for web engineering. Makes all the sense in the world. Vercel is a web engineering company. They're a platform that just does stuff for the web. So they released their benchmarks. Sounds like coming out of from him is like very positive, right? So from that, I'll just open the floor to, did anyone by any chance try it? If you didn't, that's okay. Just curious, did anyone get a chance to give it a go? No one?
No, nobody. I bought it last night, but I didn't touch it yet. So.
I didn't touch it. Where can it be used? It's just Open Router currently?
Oh, Kimi token plan.
And the Moonshot?
Vercel's.
They have their own harness.
Oh yeah, that's something that.
Code or something like that.
Yeah, they have their harness too.
They have their own harness. I'm actually not familiar with this at all. So my recall was like, and this was for all the open source companies, were sort of like use some other harness.
I think they're learning from like the open weights, like people are getting crappy results. So like let's create a harness around it so you can utilize our engine or model much more efficiently.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. It's really hard to deploy a model without a harness because you're now at, if you're going to use someone else's harness, you're at their mercy, right?
Yeah.
If your model knows specific tool calls, you might have a harness with like specific tool names, but your model is not familiar with it, and so you end up having this degraded experience. So harness and model very much like they're hard coupled at this point. I don't think they sort of generalize as well, or you get these percentage point losses when you try to do that.
By definition, most, at least the frontier models, they always advertise that you can give them whatever tools you want. I mean, if you use them by API, you can make up whatever tools you want and put it better. So
It's
I
not that
don't
it
think
doesn't
that
matter.
pre-training matters that much about tool names.
They usually have an alias, so you train them on, and then there's an alias for like all of the general models. But like the old Kimmys, like I don't know, I haven't tested the new one yet, but the last Kimmy had issues on like OpenClaw and Hermes, and we had to write into the harness aliases for it, so it was easier for the Kimmy model. Like, and we often have to do when we're working on the harness side for open like models, we have to have aliases that they're trained with built into the harness, so that, and we can't cover every provider. So it's actually one of the biggest headaches we have working on the harness side is like every provider does an update, and we have to do like, oh, it has these specific tools. Well, we're going to say this is an alias for this, and there's like 6 or 7 main tools that most models train on, but some have different ones based on their own harness.
And the naming actually makes a big difference. Like if it knows read and I give it read file or something like that, would actually make a big difference.
We've seen,
How
I've seen up to like, I've seen small. It's minimal. So the answer is yes, but like it's minimal. So that might matter, might not. But I've seen something like, you know, read versus another tool name with a very similar. And it's like 10% difference. And so that could matter a lot. It could, right?
Codex, for example, uses plan tool call, uses goal tool call. Like these are all specific Codex tools. And on different harnesses, they have different ways to use plan mode. They have different ways to use goal mode, right? And so the model usually in the background, its reasoning will figure it out if it has an alias. But it usually is trained on a specific, like Codex is supposed to work best on their system. But like when we convert over for like Hermes or OpenClaw or any of these harnesses, we have to literally rebuild the tools with aliases so that the model can use them.
So it's kind of an optimization. I guess if I just give it a different tool name, it will do its own internal reasoning. Oh, we want you to use this tool instead of this tool.
Yeah, that's exactly how the internal reasoning works. It'll actually say, okay, you see this sometimes even in Codex and everything else, where it'll say, oh, I tried this skill or I tried this toolpath, it didn't work. And it's because something changed because of what it was trained on. And usually the internal reasoning is it'll try to figure it out.
So it becomes pretty obvious pretty quickly when you, the coupling, I mean, if you start building your own harness, just like even a simple little chatbot that does something. So you build that. The simple thing, like give it some tools that it can call, that simple reason is very easy. It's a 100 lines of code and it works always. But when you make it actually little bit usable, actually useful to do something, there's always corner cases. So the whole harness, the engineering, writing the harness, is about handling these little edge cases. And the models are, even the frontier models, the best ones, are a little bit different always. So very quickly the harness becomes like just this big machine of handling the edge cases of certain behavior of certain models. That's why the coupling, like, it almost, even if you don't want that, it just becomes the thing when you're trying to make your harness work. Therefore, like if you change Fable to TBD 5.6, it's not going to work the same way. So that's why I think the coupling of the harness model when it comes to.
And then like, so open code, part of the value proposition of the business model is that if you want to use open models, use open code, because we've got a bunch of engineers that as soon as the models come out, we're going to make it work with the tool that you like. You know what I mean? And that's the value proposition of those things. And there is work being done in terms of that layer. You know, and if we see more of this kind of, I need to swap out, you know, then there's either going to be services. You know, right now that's just the harness for developers. But you could imagine there's going to be an ecosystem of services where for whatever need that you have, you need to swap it out. And then do I do that in-house? You know, the aliasing or whatever, the translating, do I make it so that I can plug in? Or do I outsource that? And there's a separate company that does that for me for a certain niche in the ecosystem. You know, I could imagine that's where we're heading.
So does open code have different rule schemas and different system calls per model? I mean,
Yeah, there's different schemas for each one.
Behind the scenes, I guess.
Yeah, behind the scenes they do schemas for every single model.
Yeah.
But also what's happening right now, there's 2 philosophies you have to cover, which is the rat and the maze model, right? And then open. So like everyone knows Pi harness. Pi harness, there's no maze, right? Pi harness, the model can build its own tools, it sets up whatever you want, and that's like the philosophy that a lot of people are moving towards in AI, is that, okay, like that's why Pi does way better in a lot of evals, because the model can set up and use its tools however it wants. The other side is what we were just talking about, which is like we do, when you have to try to support a bunch of models, you have the rat and the maze, where the model has to move around, hit the walls, literally its reasoning is hitting the walls, hitting the shapes, hitting the sandboxes, and it tries to find a way around it to fix it. So that we do that at Hermes, OpenClaw, and all this. Anytime you have to support a bunch of models, you have to have a lot of guardrails. It's one of the reasons, like Codex, I'm getting to rant on this. Codex pulled a lot of guardrails out with 5.6 which is one of the reasons it has a lot of problems. But one of the things people are liking about using like GPT 5.6 and Claude Code now, Claude Code has really good guardrails, not too much, not too little, and so it's just enough to keep the model on track. Whereas Codex, the philosophy internally in the AI team is like, we're going to take more and more guardrails off, which is part of what happened this last week. Is they took a lot of guardrails off, and so you have sub-agents doing whatever, right? And like they actually took a lot out of the harness.
Something to be aware of when you run local models. If you're not using a harness, you use like Unsloth Studio. You can download the model, run it. What a lot of people don't know is they can provide their own system prompt for the model. You know, and you can set like temperature, like how strict you want it to be, or reasoning on and off. And there's all these values that you can set. So it's just important. Like just because you're running a local model, you might have the default system prompt at Unsloth or whatever provider, but you don't have that harness built around like the tool calling. I think the harnesses are important to like build and figure out like routing and tool calling and stuff like that. Otherwise, you end up with a monolithic system prompt, you know, to run these local models.
Yeah.
Do you have an example, like how the difference was? Because when I work with local models, I mean, of course, they get system instructions, but I actually didn't really rework the system prompt that probably comes with the model, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, depending on how you're calling the local model, there's like the llama CPP or whatever kind of things. When you launch them, you can define your context window size, and that will depend on how much memory you're going to end up using depending on your system. Like temperature values, P and K, and then a default system prompt that you can override kind of. So you're kind of giving the model the instructions that you want it to maybe do for your specific things. Kind of forcing it, so every time you call the model, it's using your system prompt.
And just one last thing is like, a lot of the companies and providers now are trying to use more generic and mainstream tool schemas. Like tool schema, like there's like versioning, like overall, like they're trying to standardize it. The only company that is like not standardized is like Anthropic. It's one of the reasons like cloud models don't do well in a lot of harnesses without a lot of aliases and a lot of things. It's one of the reasons like even with like there's a lot of work to keep OpenClaw, Hermes, and like that like up to date, because you have to have all these tool call aliases, because the cloud model's like, nope, sorry, I don't want to. I'm only going to do this. Like I do not use an alias, so you have to. It has to think that it's calling the same system, and that's why a lot of the code was literally around making it think it was inside of Claude Code. Because that was literally like half of the code that worked early OpenClaw, Hermes to get it to work. Because if it doesn't,
makes sense.
Cloud models will just say, sorry, I'm not doing it.
And I think that's why open code is efficient. You know, they will go through and maybe
they
create your system prompt for you, like test out the new model locally. Because if you test it out locally and you're kind of using the default, you're going to be like, this is crap, right? You know,
but what's the latest on this crackdown on other harnesses, right? Like Claude at some point said, no, you got to use Claude through terminal and this and that. Did anything change there?
They haven't, since that last announcement, they haven't, they kind of just dropped, they stopped talking about it.
They had this June 15th that is on this indefinite pause, and they haven't returned to it. So it's on pause. Officially, it's on pause.
So they're not banning people anymore, or like these guys.
It's on pause.
Okay.
I don't know what it means. Like, you could get you could get like tomorrow. You wake up and
isn't tomorrow Fable Day also?
They just announced.
No, they just announced.
I mean, come on, guys.
Yeah.
Anthropic.
No, they announced that
it's extended 50% now.
Indefinitely.
Yeah.
Oh, finally, did they say this today?
This morning.
So go all night and tonight. Okay.
But only 50% of the quota.
The same expense.
Oh, it's the same as
Yeah, it's the same as
I thought it was 75%.
No, it was always 50.
well, there was if I recall, there was this extra usage that you were going to have also up until July something.
Oh yeah, they had 50% extra usage on top.
Yeah.
So.
All right, I want to avoid. I know we talk about
again.
Claude nonstop here, so we'll get to it. It's in the slides at some point.
One thing I just want to mention is that just on the tail end of that conversation about multiple harnesses, right? So what are we're saying harnesses are bound to the model, and they're going to be more performative, right? And then you take a cost if you're going to create like open code, because then you have to manage all this shit. So what it means, and this I'm going to go back to that thing that I think is interesting from Databricks. Databricks created something called Omnigent. It's basically a harness on top of the harnesses.
Yeah.
And what it is,
Meta harness or something?
it's a meta harness. So basically, you can have all you want. You don't have to manage it. Basically, you have Anthropic, you have Codex, whatever the hell you want. Okay, Kimi code, just plug it in, yes, and then you have like, you can just call whatever you want whenever you want it, and then you're like, okay, well, I'm in midstream of this thread, and I'm doing a bunch of shit, and now I'm going to switch the codex. And you just switch the codex, and the whole thread, everything just routes over the codec as if you were in mid. So you're able to switch and do all kinds of things inside of it. And I think that's also the trend that's happening with OpenClaw and Hermes, is that it's becoming like this meta harness on top.
Yeah, 100%. Right? Most of the code is on top of, it's a harness on top of a harness. It's,
yes.
Literally, OpenClaw was Pi, and then just had to keep supporting more and more providers, and it's basically the same thing. You could actually, if you want to, like, if you use Omnigent or Hermes or OpenClaw, you can just take like half of the code yourself, and it's MIT, right? And then if you want to build a harness, I would just rip that code out, and then like we thought about making a library too, similar to Omnigent, because that's honestly one of the best things. Like 80% of the code is just like routing stuff and making it work in all the different platforms and channels. Like it's not new features; it's literally fixing that shit and supporting new providers.
Okay, last thing on K3, and then we'll move on to the next slide. What I have here is, there was some talk, and I think Carlin, actually you brought up some of these points as well during the week or last week, that China regulation is starting to kick up. Yeah. And the only reason I bring it up is because there is sort of talk about maybe they block off the models to outside China. They're certainly doing a whole bunch of regulation changes actively this month. There's already some that kicked in a couple days ago. I think July 15th was one of them. So I'm just bringing it up that, like, if you're in a decision-making position, or if you're going to go and purchase hardware because you're thinking about putting an open source model, at least I hope that this is in your evaluation, right? That you evaluated that the some things could change from China. Do with that whatever you will. It's happening, right?
Yeah.
Just pointing it out. If you want to add something, go for it.
They had an AI conference in Chiang Mai, I think like a few days ago, and Xi Jinping shows up to talk. So you see how important that is, I guess.